Hello. That song that you were just listening to was recorded about 46 years ago, and it was done in Cleveland, Ohio. The name of the song is Time Won't Let Me by J.C. Messina. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Messina, otherwise known as J.C. Messina. Now, I guarantee you've never heard of me or this particular recording of Time Won't Let Me if you live in the United States. But for all of you over in England, in the Northern Soul community, okay, I'm sure you've heard of the song Time Won't Let Me by me, J.C. Messina. I'm here. I was asked to talk to you folks about the song and how it was recorded. I got an email from George Gell, who represents Buckeye Beat. Okay, that's all about the music history of Cleveland, Ohio. All right, which I am part of. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I now live in Florida. But let me tell you, folks, if you're from the United States, and you've never heard of this song, you never heard of me, you're welcome to stick around and listen about the story. But I know should be pretty exciting to all of you true Northern Soul fans from England, especially all you guys that went to the Wigan Casino. Now let me tell you how the story went, okay? Years ago, I'm a drummer actually, okay? I was playing drums in a band, played drums all my life, and sang in the band. We were playing a small club in Cleveland, and that's where Tom King comes in. He was a member of the original Outsiders. He was the leader of the band, the Outsiders, who originally did the song Time Won't Let Me that you're used to hearing. Okay? But he came into the club that we were playing at. It was called Hyers Lounge, okay? Well, you Clevelanders are going to remember Hyers Lounge. But anyways, if you're in England, you've never heard of it. He approached us about doing the song, and he wanted to redo the song Time Won't Let Me. But he felt that it needed to have a rock sound to it or whatever. So he thought for sure, okay, us younger guys should be able to provide him with what's happening now. He was only in his 30s, but he felt he could have been a little out of touch with what's happening currently. We're talking 1973, I think, okay? Somewhere in that area. But I'll tell you, I did not know what was going on with this song, okay? Tom, of course, recorded the song with us. We went in the studio. He took the song with his accountant, Charlie Rohr, after it was finished, and he took it out to L.A. Took it to Capitol Records. They weren't really enthralled with it. He didn't get any deal, didn't get a contract, came back home to Cleveland, and that was pretty much the end of it, okay? He did want to try again, and he contacted me, but I had already I joined another band and was currently rehearsing with that band. I just didn't want to try again, so that was the end of it. And I never heard from Tom King again. But over the decades, little did I know that the song was picked up, and this is an important name in Northern Soul, by Richard Serling. Okay? Now let me tell you, there's a lot to the story. If you've never heard of Northern Soul, what would happen is DJs from England were like celebrities, okay? They would come over to America and somehow get their hands on these defunct recordings, okay? And most of them came out of Detroit. Most of them were like Motown songs, really soulful songs, great records. Just they didn't ever got put out. Okay, they were never released. So Richard would pick up these songs along with some other DJs, I think. They would take them back to England, and Richard would play a place called the Wigan Casino. It's like the mecca of Northern Soul. Okay, there were other clubs like that. The Twisted Wheel, I think, was one of them. You know, there were a lot of them, and if you read up on Northern Soul, you can get the story. But he would take it there, and the DJs, they were the celebrities, okay? So they would take these songs and play them, try them out, you know. And for some reason, this particular recording, Time Won't Let Me by J.C. Messina, the crowd took a liking to it. And from what I understand, it was what they call a stomper, meaning it was really popular at the Wigan Casino and all, you know, around that area in England. Tom King never knew this, as from what I understand. I never knew it. The way that I found out was my sister. My sister Patty emailed me saying, Jimmy, that song that you recorded a zillion years ago is on the internet. Now, at the time we recorded it, the internet was not there. Nothing was going on. There were no computers happening. But now, you know, at that time, and this is in the last 5 or 6 years, okay? My sister says, it's on the internet, your song. And there it was. I don't know if it was on eBay or what, but there it was. This picture that you're looking at right here. Tom will let me. A lot of you will recognize that label. But sure enough, I'm looking, how did my song, you know, I look on the heading where the record is being sold from. England. I'm like, how did that song get over in England? What's the deal here? And I'm looking at the thing was selling for like 200 bucks. I couldn't believe it. So I had to find out what was going on. I emailed the person, and to tell you the truth, if I remember correctly, I think the person was Kev Roberts, another famous DJ in Northern Soul. If you look it up, you're going to see his name all over the place. Richard Serling, Kev Roberts, and there's a bunch of other ones. But a lot of these guys have radio shows now. But Richard Serling, really, he just skyrocketed. He became the Mr. Northern Soul. So, anyways, Kev Roberts emailed me back and just, you don't know what this is about? I said, how did my record get over in England, and why do you have it? He realized I was completely in the dark about Northern Soul and that whole scene, and he was kind enough to explain to me about Richard Serling and how Richard brought the record back and what they used to do over there, the DJs, because they wanted to remain, the celebrities. They didn't want anybody to get their repertoire, okay? They would come over with these songs and they'd become hits over there, and they would cover up the name. So they would cover up the name J.C. Messina with some other name. And as I understand it, I was called Bob Seger, or the Bob Seger system, okay? Eventually, though, it gets out. The song, this label, this record behind me, Time Won't Let Me by J.C. Messina, got bootlegged. I mean, when they really start becoming popular, the bootleggers get them, and it was bootlegged for, exactly like you see it here. I mean, the label and everything, except there are a couple of things that are missing. I have originals here, and, there are some things in the dead wax I've learned that denote, uh, they make the record stand apart from the bootlegs. But I can tell you myself that not many of those records were made. They're very rare because I went personally with Tom King to Brody Pressing. Now, you can look up Brody Pressing now on the internet. There's a whole story about them. And it was just a mom and pop pressing set up in Cleveland, kind of a scary part of Cleveland. I remember going at night with Tom King to Brody Printing, and it was just a house. It was like Hitsville and Motown. It's just a house, a converted house. And I remember loading the small boxes of records into Tom King's trunk of his car. And seriously, folks, I don't know what the run was. I don't know if it was 150, maybe no 300, no more than 500. And Brody Pressing was famous for that, for making small runs of records, except they usually did like gospel records, okay? And or speeches too, things like that. But Tom King, he knew where to go. He knew the Cleveland scene. He had already been through it with the Outsiders and their national fame and all that. So he knew where to go get a small run of records done so that he could go out and promote the record and, do what he had to do, get them to radio stations. Anyways, I was allotted some of those records. My twin brother Johnny, there's a whole other story about Johnny's involvement in Time Won't Let Me. Okay? And I want him to explain it to you, folks. But he's going to come out here later and he's going to tell you all about the actual recording of the song. Okay? Because I'm kind of sketchy on it. It's funny because in those days, I was a drummer. And I've been a drummer all my life and a singer. So I was kind of the main singer of the band. And Tom liked my voice. And I really just basically did what they told me to do. But Johnny had so much to do with it, the writing of the song, the arrangement of the song, all that stuff. So he has a better memory than I do. He has a better recollection of, where we recorded it and some of the musicians that played on it and some of the minutiae like that. But I just want to say that I'm actually proud that to be a part of the Northern Soul community now, even though for many decades I had no clue. Okay, but now I know, and from what I understand, some of you really hated that song, and others, of course, loved it. I guess the majority really latched onto that song, and if you did. And if you'd like to contact me, you can contact me. I'm going to put my email up here, okay? You get me at savoldi1 at AOL.com, okay? There it is right there. If you'd like to ask a question, I'd love to hear from you, okay? Now, I understand some of you have been coming over with Kev Roberts on his excursions to Detroit. And I wish I could have been part of those, but hey, you can't be part of something if you're not aware of it. So I'm so glad to finally present myself to you, and thanks to George Gell for giving me a call and asking me to explain what happened and how the song was recorded. There's more to come. Some interesting points. I'm going to give you a little tip about the song. The flip side of the record is called Nice and Easy. That's a song that Johnny wrote, okay? My twin brother. That's also him singing on the song. It's not me. It says J.C. Messina, but it's really John Messina, Johnny Messina. Um, yeah, actually, my name is Jim Messina. I've always gone by Jim Messina. But Tom said, nah, we can't use that because there's already Jim Messina of Loggins in Messina. And, people ask me constantly, are you, Jim Messina of Loggins? You know, thousands of times I've had to answer that question. But we needed to change it. So my middle initial is C. Stands for Craig. James Craig Messina. So that's what we use. J.C. Messina. And of course, you got Tom King all over the all over the record label. He had everything to do with it. I mean, his intention was to really revive this song, and it was, had high hopes for it. But he continued on with other groups and promoting that song. And not too long ago, Tom passed away. So I don't think he has any inkling of what happened with our recording. But I'm just glad to have been affiliated with Tom and the legacy of Tom, because this goes along with the Outsiders, actually. So I thank all of you for your interest in this song, and I'm glad I made you happy and that you could stomp it out and that it became a great memory for you in your youth at the all-nighters at the Wigan Casino with with the brute cologne smell and everything. That's what I'm reading about the place. If you have something you want to tell me about it, I'd love to hear about it. I bought some CDs that were out there that actually have a recording. Somebody just put a cassette player on the railing. I guess there was an upper balcony there at the Wigan Casino, and you can hear there's the people clapping. It was really mesmerizing when I listened to this. I said, there it is. I was transported back to like 1978, and Richard Serling was doing his set, and the people, you guys had your certain moves that you did, with the stovepipe pants and all that stuff. Great memories. But then all of a sudden, I hear the intro to the song, that goofy intro to "Time Won't Let Me" by J.C. Messina, and it was really eerie to be a part of 1978 over in Wigan, England at the Wigan Casino. So thanks a lot, folks. I hope this brings back some good feelings for you, okay? This is J.C. Messina saying thanks a lot. And hey, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but I'm going to bring up my brother Johnny in a little bit here, okay? Thanks, everybody. Keep on rocking. What do they say? Keep the faith? That's right. Okay, here's to Northern Soul. J.C. Messina, out.
Hey, Brother JC. Hi, fans. Buckeye Beat fans, maybe Northern Soul fans. Thanks for showing some interest in this interesting story about Time Won't Let Me. And all of you have heard Jim, or JC, tell you about the record. Originally done by Tom King and the Outsiders. That included Sonny Geraci on the lead vocal and the rest of the Tom King band. That song was a hit in the 60s and was a great song. Still is a great song. So, my twin brother, JC, Jim, and I belonged to a 7-piece Chicago-style band, horn section, rock and roll, and we were all young kids just out of high school, and we were very dedicated, playing around Cleveland area. And just a story about us playing a popular spot called Hyers Lounge in Wickliffe, Ohio. 7 of us down in this dark bar. And, in those days, a lot of entertainment was happening in the Cleveland area. A lot of bands every night, so you could go out all the time. So we're playing, I think it was maybe a Tuesday night at Hyers Lounge, kind of a slow night. It was us and a table of 2 or 3 people out in the audience. They're listening rather intently to us. So we finish or took a break or whatever, and these fellas come up to us. One of them introduces himself to us, says, "Hi, I'm Tom King." We said, "We don't know who Tom King is, so hi." And he explained to us his notoriety, where he came from, and he asked us, "Have you ever recorded songs in a recording studio?" Which we had done one song several years earlier. So we had that recording experience. "Did you write songs?" "Yes, some of us wrote some songs." "Would you like to record some songs?" "I have investors that have money, and we'd like to have some musicians record with us." And eventually he came around to, we wanted to re-record Time Won't Let Me with a hip new sound. So he was apparently looking for some younger musicians that maybe had their pulse on what's happening today. And 7 of us had to kind of debate the whole thing. We were very skeptical of somebody older than us, right? Weren't we all? So we weren't sure if we should get involved with that person. So we said, we'll think about it. And along with him that night, he had a friend, Charlie Rohr. We didn't know who he was, but I think he was his accountant, which he was. And that'll come up later. So we debated the whole thing later the week at band practice. Most of the guys were very skeptical. We're not going to do it. Forget it. Not interested. But 3 of us were. And that being my brother, twin brother Jim, myself, and our best friend, John Petrella, who played trumpet with the band and played a little bass guitar. So we showed some interest because we had written some songs. I said, okay, we'll do it. So Tom King strikes up a relationship with us. We show up at my mother's house in her basement where we played all the time. That's where we practice. And older man Tom King comes over. I think he was probably in his 30s. And we start kind of practicing. Tom King really hadn't been on the scene for 15 years. So he was doing something else, some other job. But we talked over music. And the 3 of us were kind of stodgy about what kind of music was good and what was bad. And we had a thing about calling music stock if it sounded too ordinary. So every idea that we were coming up, we would say, "Oh, that's too stock." And Tom King goes, "What are you talking about, stock? What is this stock?" And we explained to him ordinary. So eventually, we all played together, threw around some ideas, not just one night, but several nights. Bang, we strike on the Time Won't Let Me, What You Hear. And here's that record. You may have seen it already. This is the pressing, Time Won't Let Me by J.C. Messina, Tom King Productions. And, this is what that session, those practices yielded. And we went to audio recording studios in Cleveland, Ohio, in the basement of the WKYC TV building, where George Stage, the engineer, took care of everything. Very accomplished, and I think he may have been related to Tom King. And he engineered the whole session for us. Myself showed up, my brother, Tom King, John Petrella, and one other good friend of ours, piano player Jeff Sleeper. We played many years with him. So we hammered out again the same rockin' Time Won't Let Me, just the rhythm track. George recorded it. I played my Gibson Les Paul custom guitar. I played it through a then kind of ordinary sounding amplifier, a Silvertone, which is a very vintage amp right now. I wish I still had it. Silvertone head with a homemade guitar speaker bottom with a 15-inch Eminence speaker in it that I believe was blown out, which gave us a sound that we liked, so we played through that. I believe Tom King must have played guitar on the session, although I don't actually recall him picking up the guitar, but I think my memory fails me, so he was on the record. John Petrella played bass guitar. Jim J.C. played drums, and Jeff Sleeper played piano. And an interesting fact, while playing the piano part brilliantly, we needed one other part. We needed one other piano part, and we wanted it played right now. So we pressed into service the accountant Charlie Rohr, who also played piano. And he sat right next to Jeff Sleeper, and the part that we needed, you hear it very plainly on the record, and it's very exciting. At the right time, he took his thumb and he raked it down the keyboard. Like that, several times during the song. And it made the track. So we rehearsed it, and we played it. And he did that, and he did that again. And boy, we just rocked that thing for an hour or two. Well, by the time we're done, we're all satisfied we got it. Charlie Rohr holds up his bleeding thumb, and he received a Purple Heart for that contribution to the record. So that's what we finished that session. And Tom King, being the producer that he was, felt, we need a stronger bass guitar part. John Petrella was kind of an introductory bass player, and he could do the part, but there was just some magic that wasn't there. So he said, "You got another bass player?" "Yeah, we do." We had a very good friend, Ken Lesko, excellent bass guitar player, came in, overdubbed all of John Petrella's parts. Sounded great. However, Tom King still had the producer experience. He said, "We just need some work on the bass track." So on his own, he hired a very well-known studio cat named Bob Frazier. Very well known for guitar, bass. He came in and blew out the bass part with the right sound, the right feel, and that's what you hear on the record today. And that was great. Well, then we needed a horn section or horn parts, and our guys in our band weren't involved. So Tom King hired one person, Bob Wanacott, who was a music instructor, very experienced, came in, played all of the horns that you hear on that record. Some of them overdubbed, but he played trombone, he played trumpet, played saxophone. There's baritone sax on there. And he did an excellent job. I was there the day he did it, and I don't know how you switch from a trumpet to a trombone and do it. But he did an excellent job, and that's what you hear on the record. So the last thing we needed was Tom King requested a saxophone solo. Do you know a sax player? Yes, we do. And we happened to get in touch with Vic Walkus. If you're from Northern Ohio, you may know Vic Walkus from playing in the band Rastus. And he went by the name of Vic Walkus. His real name was Walkuski. But he was fantastic. So he comes in, and he was kind of a rock and roller, with that kind of a musical mind. And he came in, we need something to play us out of the end of the record. Okay. I think on the first cut he played the most magical solo that I ever heard. Blew us away. It's the one you hear on the record. And he probably played a second or the third one just as good, but I think we used the first cut, and it was fantastic. I think it's the cherry on the record. It's just the best. So those are some details about this record. Time won't let me. On the other side, if you have this, which I doubt, is a song called Nice and Easy, which I wrote, and this is the song that I said the earlier band recorded one time, this song. So John Petrella and I rewrote it to work for this situation. But this is me singing on that side, and JC is singing on this side. Nobody knows that. Well, here's a little gem that kind of is just one of the little details that you might be interested in if you're a fan of this song and JC's record and how it turned out. and I don't even know if JC knows I have this, but here's the original acetate pressing of Time Won't Let Me from Kendon Records pressing. You see the date there is 1975. Time Won't Let Me. And this is the first thing that ever got cut. So it's a real record. It does exist. I'm glad to have that. So I hope you've enjoyed some of the details that I've given you. But there's much more to this record than JC or I ever imagined. And from the original Time Won't Let Me in 1960 whatever to this pressing, which was maybe 1974 or 5, and after it got shopped around for a short time by Tom King in LA and New York, nothing ever happened, and JC and I and the other guys forgot about it, and we went on with our musical lives for probably 20 years. So it's not over.